Okay, so today we're going to talk about linear measure. Linear measure. Oh yeah, get your notes out. It might be easier for these first couple of problems to maybe look in your workbook. Do that. Let's look in your workbook, page 3. Look in your workbook on page 3. That's be a lot more productive than me trying to draw a ruler on the wall. And we'll just do these 4 problems together, 2 on each page, and then we'll go back to the notes, and then you could use the workbook for the rest of your practice today. So, we're on page 3 in the workbook, and we're looking at number 1. And it says find the length of each line segment. All right, and number 1 there, that's in centimeters, isn't it? And does everybody see the halfway point between each centimeter? Okay, so anybody want to give me an answer for number 1 there in centimeters, the length of each line segment? Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't care. Say it. 5.5. Good. So we're going to go with 5.5 centimeters. If anybody doesn't see that, speak up. You've got your tick marks on there. You've got your number line, and there was a 4, and then there was a 5, and between it, there's your 4.5, and then between the 5 and the 6, there's another halfway point. All right, and then it even had it broken down more, didn't it? It had how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 of them in there. So each of those would have been how many units? Right? If this is 4.5, this one right here, that's 4.1, isn't it? Okay? And then 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, and 4.5. So, and then over here we had 4.6, 7, 8, 4.9, and then we're at 5.0. So I think you can use a measuring device. Number 2 is a little bit different. The increments on the measuring device. Now we're in inches. Okay? Now we're in inches. Anybody want to give me a dimension for that? Looks like a scraper, floor scraper, small floor scraper. Anybody want to take a shot at that? Yeah, go ahead. 2 point, say again? Yeah, green. 2.25? 2.25 inches. Okay, I want you to just look at the difference in, here's your measuring device again. Here's where the 1 is, and then you got the 2, but you don't have as many marks in between, do you? So when you don't have any marks in between, you're not as precise. So here's your 1.5. And then between a 1 and a 1.5, that would be your 1.25. And what would this one be? That'd be 1.75. Okay? And then you got your 2, and then you got your 2.5 is kind of a bigger one. So right in here, that would be your 2.25, or it could be 2 1/4 inches. All right, 2 1/4. That's what if you're a construction person, that's 2 1/4 inches. They even put, if you buy a new tape measure these days, how many of you have your own tape measure at home? Got your own tape measure. Good. Is it a good Stanley metal tape measure? Does it have all the fractions on there? Does it? Yeah, my son's got one. I have an older one. Doesn't have it. My son has one, and it's got all of the fractions for each increment of the inches on the ruler. So you really can't mess it up. All right. Good. All right, let's flip it over then and look at number 1 on the back, or number 1 on page 4. Number 1 on page 4. Anybody? Segment EF. Segment EF. The length of segment EF. You got to do a little bit of counting. Anybody want to give it a shot? I see 1 1/2 so far. It's not quite 1 3/4, is it? Anybody got a shot? All right, look. Here, let me help you. Here's your device. Here's your 1, right? And here's your 2. What's this one right here? There's your 1.5. And then now you got your quarters, don't you? So here's your 1.75, isn't it? And you see how these are in different increments now? And where does this thing go to? Just before the 1.75? Goes to right there. That's where it ends. So how many do we got between 1.5 and 2? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we got 8. See it? Anybody got an answer for me yet? Anybody got a try at it? If there's 8 markers between the half and the whole, how many markers are down here between the half and the whole? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So between the 1 and the 1.5, how many marks are there? Say 8. Good. Between the 1.5 and the 2, how many marks are there? 8. So how many marks total? 16. All right. So look, if we go to here, this is 1 inch. This is 1 inch and 8/16, isn't it? So what's this one? 9/16, 10/16, 11. So this is 1 and 11/16. 1 and 11/16 inches. Pretty precise, right? When in doubt, just count the units of measure. All right, if you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 marks between 8 marks and a half of an inch, then you have 16 marks in the whole inch, and every mark is a 16th of an inch. So halfway is 8, 9, 10, 11. 12/16, right? This is 12/16. What does 12/16 simplify to? Good. 3/4, right? 12/16 is the same as 3/4, and 3/4 is the same as 0.75. So if you were right here, That's your 1.75, isn't it? And in 16ths, it's 1 3/4 of an inch. If you live with your parents and maybe your dad has a tape measure, like Saturday morning, maybe ask him tonight, say, hey Dad, like Saturday morning, can we get up and go out in the garage and measure stuff? Wouldn't that be fun? And then you would be really good with the tape measure and your measurement would improve. Doesn't that sound like fun? Just measure stuff for just like a couple hours, 3 or 4 hours. Measuring like the length of a nail, the length of a screw, the length of a 2x4, the width, the height, all that stuff. And you would learn a lot. Y'all ever seen a 2x4? Huh? No, it's not, is it? Yeah, how wide is a 2x4? A 2x4. Good, it's 1.5 inches wide. Did you know that? He did. How tall is a 2x4? That's 3.5 inches wide. Wonder why they call it a 2x4 if it's 1.5 by 3.5. That's something that makes you go, Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a 2x4x8. That's supposed to be 2 inches wide by 4 inches high by 8 feet long. They give you two of the dimensions in inches and then the third one in feet. Crazy, huh? Boy. So if a 2x4 is actually 1.5 inches by 3.5, what's a 2x6? That's 1.5 by 5.5. Good. Very good. Very good. Very good. All right. So then we got number 2 there on that page 2. You got to measure that, I don't know, piece of ribbon with a bunch of stars on it. We're in centimeters. Anybody want to give that one a shot? Yes. 4 2/10 or 4.2, right? 4.2 centimeters. Good. A little easier to measure the metric units, right? They're all in tenths. All right, they're all in tenths. So very good. Okay, so we're going to move along now, and we're going to talk about what's called betweenness. Betweenness of points. And we're going to say that point M is between points P and Q if and only if P, Q, and M are collinear. It means they're on the same line. And PM plus MQ equals PQ. So here's what it looks like as a picture. If you've got this line and we got point P on it and M and Q. This entire distance right here would be referred to as PQ. This piece is PM, and this piece is PQ. No, it's not. It's MQ. I'm sorry. So do you see how PM plus MQ equals PQ? All right, it's also called the segment addition postulate. Two smaller pieces added together equal the longer big piece, right? Now, let's look at the subtraction part of this. What if you took PQ and you subtracted PM? What are you left with? PQ, the entire piece, minus this piece. What are you left with? MQ, good. If you take PQ, the entire length, and you subtract MQ, what are you left with? P to M, good. All right. If you take this whole piece right here, the length of that whole piece, and you subtract this piece, you're left with this piece. So in its simplest form, if you're given a segment, and let's see, it's got E, F, and G on it. And you've got 2 1/4 inches, and then you have 2 3/4 inches, and you're asked to find the length of EG. How many of you got them calculators that I asked you to get? Let's use the fraction button on that calculator. It's the ABC button just left of the number 1. So if you got that calculator, take it out. And if you type 2, fraction button 1, fraction button 4, you should see a 2 1/4 on your screen. And then you can push plus 2, fraction button 3, fraction button 4, and hit equals. And what does your screen say? 5, good. So these calculators make fractions very simple. And if, please, hopefully you've got it ordered, it's coming, you're going to have it, because all of those green buttons behind the fraction button, you can turn your fraction to a decimal, you can turn your decimal to a fraction, you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions on these calculators. They are super basic calculators, but they got a lot of different operations that they can do. All right. So let's say you're given now this, we got this line, we got point A, B, and C on the line. We're told now that AC is 13 3/4. We're told that A to B is 6 5/8. And you need to find the length of BC. Well, now we're going to take the entire segment, 13 3/4, and we're going to subtract segment AB, which is 6 5/8, and that difference is going to be the distance from B to C. So in your calculator, again, you take 13, fraction button 3, fraction button 4, and then minus 6, fraction button 5, fraction button 8 equals. Anybody do it? What you got? I got 7 1/8. Very good. I got 7 1/8. Now, hey, while it's sitting on your screen, do you see the green button, upper left, on your calculator? Push it. Go to the bottom left, the big arrow button, and behind it, it says F to D. Push it. What does it say? 7.125. So what does that F to D button do? F, yeah, F arrow, arrow, D. That's fraction to decimal, decimal to fraction. Okay? Everybody okay with that? Very good, very good. Let's take a look at this. We've got a line, and on the line we got points X, Y, and Z. So now this entire X to Z is 5A minus 4. X to Y is 3A. Y to Z is 14. And find the value of A. So this is back to our segment addition postulate. This segment 3A plus the segment that's 14 inches long is equal to the entire segment, which is 5A minus 4. So now we got a little algebra equation with variables on both sides. So we're going to move the smaller variable. We're going to subtract 3A from each side. So 14 is equal to 2A minus 4. And then we can add 4 to each side. And 18 is equal to 2A. And then divide both sides by 2. So 9 is equal to A. Now, sometimes this will be the picture that you get right here. And sometimes it'll just be in words, which I think it is in your assignment today. So read the description, draw the picture, and then fill in the information. I think it said something like, find the value of A and XY. Okay, we still need to find the value. We found the value of A. A was equal to 9. And they wanted the value of XY. XY. So what's the distance from X to Y here if A is equal to 9? It's going to be 3 times 9, right? Which is 27. The directions there were to find the value of A and XY if Y is between X and Z. When they say if Y is between X and Z, then you draw the picture. You draw the line, and you put point Y between points X and Z. And then you start dropping in the length of each segment. All right? All right. Looks like one last thing here. Let's talk about these tick marks. I call them tick marks. Tick marks. If you've got a segment and another segment, and the segment on the left is segment AB, the segment on the right is segment CD, and if each of these segments have this mark on it, tick mark, if both segments have the same one tick mark, then AB is equal to CD. It's a geometry way of saying that two things are congruent. All right? Here's the symbol for congruent. An equal sign, this symbol. Equal sign with the squiggly line over the top means congruent. Same. If one segment is congruent to another segment, they have the same measure. If segment AB is 8.6, then segment CD is 8.6 units of measure. If angles are congruent, they have the same measure. Any questions on what we've talked about today? So I'm going to give you some practice problems to do. That's going to be page 3 and 4. All the problems. We already did some of them together. If they were a little confusing, go back and do them again on your own. And then be sure that you check focus. For an electronic assignment. Check focus for an electronic assignment after the practice is 100% complete. And when you check that focus for an electronic assignment, you're checking under alerts, right? So check focus, we're checking here. This means alerts. Checking under alerts. And you also are going to have your notes in front of you, right? Because there could be questions on there about the notes. There could be questions on there, true, false questions about some of these problems that were in your practice assignment. All right, at this time, e-learners, you are excused